How are you doing, sir? Welcome to Benzingo Live.
I'm doing good, Aaron. Thanks for having me on your show.
Of course. So before we get started, why don't you briefly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Mainz Biomed?
Yes, love to. So I'm Guido Bacher, CEO. I've been with the company for 2.5 years, and I've spent over 30 years in the diagnostic industry, many years at Roche, and then run startups in the Bay Area. I love MYNZ because they have a very unique position product. It's focused on colorectal cancer, early detection of colorectal cancer that can easily collect it at home and shipped to any labs close by, similar to what everybody is used to do on the COVID testing. But more importantly, some of the new data that we recently reported, combining our advanced technology with AI, we're able now to show, creating tests that are actually able to help prevent colorectal cancer from happening in the first place. And excited to share some more of that news with you in the next 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, let's do it. So yesterday, I know a big deal was announced. Where Minds signed a pact with an AI company or with an AI technical analysis analysis platform Emerge. Can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yeah, so we've been in the field for a long time, and so we've been watching. AI is all over every aspect, right? And it's becoming very frequently used in medical diagnostics as well. A lot of imaging tools are using it. Some diagnostics and pharma companies have been using it as well to help select the right compounds. So we were looking for alternative ways, besides the traditional biostatistical approach, to find a company that really kind of fits our culture and is able to help us consolidate the knowledge that we have with their super powered computer systems and their tools that they've developed over the last 10 years to help us ultimately create an algorithm that incorporates all our different type of biomarkers that we're using on an individual. For example, if you want to get a test like this, and you would collect very small stool samples. We would run them through our analyzers. We will give you certain biomarker information, and then that would run into our algorithm and basically able to help us predict whether you have colorectal cancer or you're at risk of developing it soon. So it's really is just us moving on with the next generation test, and really also by combining our proprietary biomarkers with the absolute state of the art AI tools that helps us, develop. As you look at that website, Liquid Biosciences, this is not about lines anymore, right? AI is doing a lot more. It's using a lot more tools to help actually express and detect, new combinations of biomarkers that are very, very predictable of whether you have a disease or not. So that's the approach, really. Liquid Biosciences is clearly a leading company in that space, and very excited to, have found each other. They're very passionate about as well, because they believe that we need to create. It's great to have a test that identifies cancer at an early stage, but how about if you can predict it earlier, right? So if I can actually give you a test that helps you do not have cancer, isn't that what we all want? And that's the approach we're taking together with Liquid Biosciences.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Guido, so I mean, congratulations on this deal. Why is it so important for the company moving forward? I mean, what is this deal going to allow you to do?
So what allows us to do really is, continue to develop, right? As you have seen, we recently reported data from our ColoFuture study, which is very, very relevant and showed really absolutely groundbreaking performance for detecting colorectal cancer. But even more importantly, Aaron, identifying precancerous lesions. And precancerous lesions are something you can identify and then remove during a colonoscopy, which means the patient does move into cancer. That was a very pivotal point for us to get that first stick in the ground. We have additional studies coming out, early detect, in the next coming weeks, which we also now partner with Liquid to create a comparable algorithm. But then ultimately, it's going to be a development process, because our goal is to get our next generation test also through the FDA, and working with a renowned company like Liquid Biosciences is going to make it easy to come up with the appropriate tools to ultimately get our test as efficient as possible passed by the FDA.
Got it. And then Guido, can you tell us more about the company's AI work and how it makes MYNZ in the next generation of tech?
Yeah, so
MYZN.
Yeah, so it's the interesting approach is if you look at the traditional, right, the traditional biomarker discovery process, right. So some people discover new biomarkers, they run clinical trials, and they generally run them through the traditional biostatistical approach, right? So there's certain formulas out there, there's certain tools out there that you can use to create best performing results, right? But those are all linear functions, and they're limited. Now, what we've done, we allow now, for example, age and gender and other parameters to be included in our formula, and so it just enables us to look at a really different type of combinations of those biomarkers. It helps us, a biomarker that may initially doesn't look promising when you look at the traditional approach looks completely different when you wrap it into this AI tool. And when you think about it, basically we're providing the data to Liquid Biosciences, and it takes them about 1 to 2 weeks with the supercomputer to run hundreds of millions of different type of combinations, and ultimately selects the best that works. And so it's really amazing
Yeah, it's incredible.
it's what they can get, because with the traditional, the key really is, and with the traditional biostatistics, the way we generally think, you just can't envision how they're doing it. It's fascinating. So it's new to us too. I've read a lot about it, but this is the first time Mainz is looking at it. We certainly want to further expand this as well. We focus on colorectal cancer right now, but we have another program ongoing, pancreatic cancer, which is an horrible killer. We have some relationship going on here with microbiome company. We will certainly overlap also an AI algorithm to ultimately create a superior test there as well.
Yeah. So, Guido, I mean, tell us a little bit about the ColoAlert product, which is currently, I think commercially available over in Europe. Are there any plans to get that product over here in the United States?
Yeah, so that great question. So ColoAlert is our first generation product that we launched just kind of post COVID in Germany, and selected other countries in Europe. It's a similar concept, Aaron. You basically have two very small collection devices of stool. You collect this at home, total privacy, drop it into any mailbox outside your house. And then you get the results within 5 to 7 days, depending on the turnaround time of the local lab. So that process is working very, very well. So we have you can actually you can purchase the test online. And one example, Aaron, we had a patient about a year ago, was a pregnant woman who already had 2 kids, and she was pregnant with her third baby. And she wasn't feeling great. She felt she wasn't gaining as much weight as she could. So she went to her physician and explained the story. The physician then felt, nothing is wrong with you. Just don't worry. You will gain weight. She didn't take this as an answer. She did research. She came across our ColoAlert test and tested herself because she could, right? Because we
Wow.
enabled that. And she unfortunately was positive. She went in with the test result to her physician, who then immediately triggered a colonoscopy. And unfortunately, they identified her as a cancer patient. But because of our test, she got earlier identified, and she gave birth to a beautiful baby, and has a higher chance of being the mother of her children in the future. So this is what we do, right? So the test in Europe is clearly very successful. And are we planning to bring that test to the United States? The answer is no. Our test that we plan to bring to the United States is the next generation, which includes additional biomarkers. And again, the AI algorithm that we discussed before, that's the plan, that we want to get that into the United States.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. I mean, that's a great story that you're able to help, someone, especially, an expecting mother. Um, do you think that's kind of the way the medical field is going? I mean, you mentioned COVID tests too. Obviously, that was the first time that we had a major pandemic where people could test themselves and find out on their own. I mean, do you think we're going to see more and more of that at home tests, things people can do on their own and maybe send to a lab so they don't have to go through all these diagnostic tests with a doctor?
I think that's the ultimate path, right? So you still have to be careful, right? You still need physicians involved in helping you interpret the results, but fundamentally, yes, I think COVID changed that significantly. You see a lot more telemedicine, right? And that all happened through COVID. Really pushed that forward. So if I can do my testing at home, ship it in, get the results, and then my physician sees it online, I don't need to see the physician, right? So again, doing at-home collection, convenient, simple, is absolutely the key to simplify, diagnostic testing in the future. And yes, I think the trend has already started. And I think products like ours and others that make it easy to collect at home will actually absolutely take off in the future.
I did one that was for a food allergy
Yeah.
test, and I actually had to prick my own finger and, like, collect blood, which was kind of fun to do at home, but I think maybe some people might have not, been a little bit more uneasy doing that, doing a little bit of a blood collection at home, but I mean, hey, it's just like a little prick on the finger. Anyone can
Yeah.
do that.
Well,
Uh,
it's all convenience, right? It's about, we're a lot of driven about convenience, right? So we want to make sure, we don't need to go and drive somewhere and wait in line. And so it's about the privacy, it's the convenience that I think drives a big part of the US population.
100%. Well, so Guido, I mean, let's go back to ColoAlert real quick. In Europe, is the product currently bringing any revenue over there?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we started the commercialization post-COVID. So that was really beginning of 22. We have signed up several laboratories. And so, envision, like, look forward into the US, right? We would have a deal with LabCorp and Quest, and they would, for example, sell our test. That would be an example, right? So
Got it.
In Europe right now, we're doing with other labs that are based in Germany. So we do a tech transfer, which meaning we train the laboratory to run the test. And then the laboratory performs it and sends the results to the patients. So that's one approach. The other one, we also have an online shop, which is working actually quite well. And then the third business that we started to get into is employee benefits, right? So there's a lot of companies that like to offer our test on an annual or biannual screening for all their employees. And that's another way, right? So because there's a lot of companies who really care about their people, and they invest, $600, $700, $800 a year on benefits for the patient that they can select what they want. And our goal is to have our ColoAlert test more and more incorporated into those corporate screening programs because it keeps people healthy, right? And what's also interesting, Aaron, is that there's a lot of guidelines about, like, Europe has guidelines to start testing for colorectal cancer after 50, right? The US recently switched to age 45. Unfortunately, the woman I talked to you about was mid 30s, right? So it's unfortunately that colorectal cancer is moving more and more to younger ages. And so when you think about a company, right, so they don't necessarily want to limit it to the older people. They want to offer it also to younger people, because we have several examples of people under 45 that actually were identified with cancer. So we don't want to miss those, because those are unfortunately the more severe cancer and have a lower survival rate. So absolutely, ColoAlert is moving forward, is again the ability to order it online, the ability to work with companies to do it, then also gets us into more discussions with the private insurances and public insurances. So it's a really interesting approach how we start to commercialize this product in Europe. Revenue wise, you've seen we were going to report our financials in the next coming weeks. We're clearly not large revenue, but we see a nice ramp up. Because you have to create the awareness too, right? So it's not a test that everybody's just going to go, oh, I want to test the right way. So it did take some time to create the public awareness within Germany, what the test is, how to order it, how to read it, right? Get the physician convinced about it. And further, we also expanded into other countries. What's really interesting, we went into some of the Eastern European countries, because like Poland, for example, is a good example. Poland is actually a very interesting country to launch such tests, because there's a large group of private payer, right? So the Polish people, for example, are used to pay for certain elements where maybe the Germans are not as much, because they have the public health insurance. So it's interesting for us to explore other segments of the European market where we actually can continue to grow the business before we then ultimately go into the screening guidelines and coverage by public insurances.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I was curious about that kind of, I guess, the revenue or commercialization model in Europe, where, of course, in countries like Germany, there's not as much out of pocket spending on healthcare as there is here in the United States. I mean, I think a lot of Germans would be shocked if they found out what Americans pay for some things over here. But hey, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's for
uh,
sure.
there's a, who knows? Who knows if that'll be the case forever, or if at some point maybe Americans that don't have a lot of money will be able to get medical care without going bankrupt. Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah.
But Guido, so We're kind of running up on the clock here, but is there anything else that you want to tell us about the company? Why should our audience, our investors watching, why should they keep Minds on their radar?
Yeah, I think that's for us clear that the passion of what we have is being able to democratize the colorectal cancer screening market, right? So we're developing products that can be globally sold, can be completely sold by any laboratories and hospitals in the United States, right? And not just by single laboratories. It's an ability to do it at home, very simple. But most importantly, Aaron, right? So this product. For all of you who listen and hope continue to watch, really it is about the clinical performance. In colorectal cancer, it's really important that you not only have a good sensitivity for colorectal cancer, but this precancerous lesions is key for the future. Because if I would ask any of you, would you want to test to just identify cancer or the precancerous lesions? Everybody would probably say, no, I want to know. I want to have a test that gives me a high chance of identifying if I have precancer, so I can eliminate the lesion and not move into cancer. And that's the holy grail. So again, continue to watch us. We have more data to come out. We're fascinated about where we're moving with this product. We're passionate about it because it's all about saving people's lives, and also being able to the more people we can identify precancer, the less it's going to cost, the better the quality of life, right? Because another example, we just had a colleague of mine just had a colonoscopy, followed the 10-year paradigm, and he'd identified one of his precancerous polyps, and they took it out, and luckily he did the colonoscopy. He didn't turn into cancer. But you should not wait for 10 years. You should do something in between, because my colleague would have had a colonoscopy 6 months later, and at that stage the advanced adenoma would have moved into a cancer stage, and you will be a cancer patient. So do something in between, and that's the passion of our company.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been great to learn more about Minds today, Guido. I mean, it sounds like you guys are doing some great work, and I wish you guys, nothing but luck in your journey. Because look, everyone should be screening for different types of cancers. Of course, everyone
Absolutely.
watching probably has had a family member or a loved one impacted by some form of cancer at some point. So, I mean, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is just early detection, and that's what
Yeah.
companies like yours are working us or helping us achieve. So Guido,
Yeah.
again, thanks for coming on. Hopefully we'll have you
Absolutely.
back on Benzingo Live anytime you guys have
Love to.
more updates in the future.
Absolutely, Aaron, was very. Thanks again for letting me speak here, and looking forward to catching up with you again in a few months.
Of course.
All
All
right.
right, guys, that was Guido, the CEO of MYNZ, ticker MYNZ, trading on the NASDAQ. If you want to go check that out, again, MYNZ.